your ruler.
Sold.
Your lands, your possessions, your very lives will gladly be given in tribute to me.
What's up, guys? We're gonna be checking out the Critical Drinkers video about the writing quality of She-Hulk. Now, I'm fully caught up on She-Hulk now, so I've watched all the episodes that have been released so far, so I can comment on pretty much everything that he comments on, but I don't think this video is like containing the newer episodes. There's a lot of fair criticisms for this show. Like, to be honest, there's a lot of fair criticisms for this show. I will say that there are some nitpicks that I have noticed that maybe were a little too nitpicky. But that doesn't discount that the show is just straight trash. But anyways, we're going to jump into it. But before we do, I would really appreciate it if you go ahead and like the video. It helps the channel, helps the algorithm. And if you're not already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button in the bottom right of the screen. Anyways, let's jump into it.
Now, like a lot of people, I tuned into the first episode of She-Hulk last week with, how can I put this, somewhat modest expectations. Basically, I expected the show to be just another lazy Marvel TV product, written and shot as quickly and cheaply as possible to keep the content sludge pipe flowing, with lame attempts at witty humour and an extra large helping of complaints about how generally awful and stupid men are. And well, that's exactly what we got. And I think one particular scene towards the end of the first episode pretty much encapsulates everything the writers wanted to accomplish with this show.
Stupid man.
I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. When I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, because if I don't,
Pretty woman.
emotional, difficult, I might just literally get murdered. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
Are you serious?
Oh my
No.
goodness, whatever could they be trying to tell me here? Now, as tempting as it is to sit and mock She-Hulk for its awful writing, cringy dialogue, flaccid CGI, heavy-handed gender politics, amateur acting, nonsensical editing and terrible pacing, but don't
I do have to say that that is a major problem with the show. In episode 4 I just finished the other day, in episode 4, I've been thinking this in the back of my mind in all the episodes, but I really put my finger on it in episode 4 yesterday. Is like, the CGI is really bad, so it's not terrible, like it's a TV show, like, so it's not terrible for a TV show, but it doesn't hold up to the level of quality of the MCU movies. And so there are parts of it where you look at her face and it's like uncanny valley, and it makes you think like Fiona in Shrek. Like, it makes you think of like Fiona in Shrek.
another video, believe that! I actually wanted to use this show for something positive for a change, because the more I think about it, the more I realise it's basically a textbook example of how not to structure a story and how not to develop a protagonist. So why not turn it into a bit of a learning experience for all of us? Grab your pens and notebooks, dear viewer, because it's schooling time! Now, as hard as it may be to believe, it is actually possible to make Jen's infamous rant function in context, but the problem with this episode is twofold. One, it doesn't actually show us any of the things she's complaining about, and two, it fails to establish Jen as a sympathetic...
Ah, shit. My computer's shitting the bed, and it'll do this random click a lot of times, and then everything
character that we care about. The writers wanted a big emotional payoff with this scene, but they were either unable or unwilling to give us the setup that it needs to work. So let's explore how and why they failed and how they could have done it better. The problems begin in the very first scene, where Jen's rehearsing a speech that she's about to give in court, and her two co-workers are listening in. Now naturally, her female companion is positively brilliant.
If I stop making videos for a while, like if I just randomly stop making videos for a while, it's because my computer shit the bed, and I'll start making videos eventually again, but it'll probably be it'll probably be like, I don't know, it'll be at least a few months. Probably, maybe even more. It'll be like a year. No, maybe not a year, but like at least 6 months or something. I don't know. I have no idea. But what happens is, like just now what happened is my computer clicked, and I don't know if it's the GPU or the something. It's the GPU or whatever, but it clicked and then everything shit the bed and everything froze for like 10-15 seconds. So just a heads up. Apologies for that. And also, if I stop making videos, it's because the computer finally completely died on me.
This girl just can't say enough good things about her, to the point where it becomes almost uncomfortable to watch. But pay attention to this scene, 007, because this is the very first time we meet our protagonist. It's the first chance we get to assess her demeanour, her personality, her mannerisms, and even her work environments. This is where the writers need to establish her as someone likeable, someone relatable, someone the audience can become invested in.
They really
but how to
skipped
do
over
this?
a lot.
Do they give her razor-sharp dialogue, a witty, fun, charming personality
All she
that
did
you
was
can't help but
talk
warm
to the camera
maybe
right away.
work in a few little flaws, insecurities, and shortcomings to make her more human and relatable? No, they just have another character straight up tell us how amazing and smart and capable she is. She's fierce, she's a girl boss, she's crushing it. The script doesn't trust the audience to form their own opinions about this character, so it just straight up tells you what to think about her. She's great because we say so, okay? Don't question us. This kind of thing is a hallmark of weak, insecure writers who don't have confidence in their own work, and it's happening more and more in Marvel projects these days. Like Maria in Captain Marvel, who feels the need to tell the audience that Carol Danvers is funny and crazy and kind, despite the movie showing us the exact opposite. Or Loki telling his female counterpart how amazing she is, because otherwise we might not figure it out for ourselves.
You did it on your own. You had rings around them. You're amazing.
This
Yeah.
is not how writing is supposed to work. The only voice of contention in the room comes courtesy of a man, but that's okay because
I enjoyed Loki. I really enjoyed Loki, but that was really weird seeing him simp for a chick. But I excused it away, like in my head. It was like, well, oh, it's him. He's always been in love with himself, so I kind of like made sense of it that way. But it was pretty weird how he was just like, oh, you're the greatest, you're the best. Like, to this chick. He was like hardcore simping for her. But I just dismissed it because he's like, oh, he's Loki. He's always loved himself. And she's him, kind of. So, anyways. And then... But yeah, like, what he's saying right now is the only one who's like... I've said all this before. Like, there was zero character development for her from the jump. She's immediately talking to the camera. Her friends are just saying how great she is. She's got no split personality with the Hulk. She can transform on command. There's zero flaws. Like, it's like no journey, no journey of her Hulk. Even the comic book version of She-Hulk had like a journey where she was stuck as She-Hulk for like a really long time. But she's not stuck. She can transform back and forth. But anyways, and then also they immediately, their only male co-worker, they immediately make a joke of. Like, they immediately say, oh, he's an idiot, right? I don't know, man. There's just so many problems with this show.
way with his tail between his legs. Yup, it's a Marvel show alright. But let's take a step back from that and think what this does for Jen's character development and that all-important scene later in the episodes. What it tells me is that Jen is already firmly in control of her life, her work environment and the people around her. She's able to quickly and easily deal with objections, dissenting voices and challenges to her authority. That's a good thing, right? Well, not really. Keep in mind the conversation later in the episode where she complains about men constantly questioning her judgment, holding her back, and generally making her life so difficult that she has to constantly hold in the rage that builds inside her. That's telling us one thing, but the episode itself is showing us the exact opposite. She easily deflects her male colleague's doubts and sends him on his way without the least difficulty, and there's no indication that she's even particularly bothered by it. If anything, she seems mildly amused by the whole thing. She just just blows him off and then gets right back to being showered with praise and adoration. And this is a real wasted opportunity to develop sympathy towards the character. Imagine this same scene where Jen recites her big elaborate closing argument, only for her more senior male partner to overrule her and flatly state that he's the one who's going to be delivering it. He might be superficially polite and consoling, maybe even giving her half-hearted platitudes like she's just not ready for this yet, but there's a more threatening undertone to his voice so that we know exactly what he's doing and why. We get to see her excitement and enthusiasm turn into crushing disappointment as she realises she's been held back from yet another opportunity. Now imagine how much more sympathy you'd feel towards her as a character. I mean, nobody likes to see good people getting crushed and sidelined, and instinctively you'd want to see her succeed. Now imagine how much more impact her rant
and without getting too analytical like he just did, he made, damn it, my computer's gonna freeze again. He made a really good point that the point being, there were so many opportunities in the show in these first 4 episodes where I almost was feeling I was like almost like, this is the opportunity, this is where I feel empathy for the character and feel bad for the character. But the problem is they got things so wrong, and like, I know it's a show, I know it's superheroes, I know it's She-Hulk, I know you have to suspend disbelief, but they got so much stuff wrong with just how male and female biology is that I was incapable of, this is the moment where I'm supposed to feel empathy. I was incapable of feeling empathy because I'm like, well, just this whole premise doesn't make any sense in the first place, right? So like, for example, there was what he was just talking about, the character building of you feel empathy with the character and you bond with the character. Like, there was a scene, spoilers, there was a scene in the new episode that I watched last night. It was the last night or the other day, and she gets on the MCU version of Tinder, right? She gets on the MCU version of Tinder, and first she starts off using her own profile picture, right? I don't know, I don't think he's going to cover this later in this video because this is a new episode and I don't think that's part of this video. But anyways, so she gets on the MCU version of Tinder. It's not called Tinder, obviously, it's called something else. And she uses her regular person photo. She doesn't use She-Hulk, right? And she's swiping and swiping and swiping and swiping and swiping. She doesn't get any matches. She doesn't get any matches. Complete nonsense. That's complete chicanery. Complete falsehood. That's impossible. That's impossible. She could, I don't care, like they try to say, oh, the reason she wasn't getting matches is because she was using her corporate photos. It don't matter if she uses her corporate photos. She would still get matches. She would still get matches. It's completely just what's the word? Disconnected from reality. Just complete disconnected from reality. Statistically, 70% of the users on dating apps are male, right? So women are in the majority already, right? They have an abundance. She could use her worst photos and swipe right on every single guy and get matches with every single guy. Now, the really hot guys, the guys that she wants to get a relationship with, would she be able to get a relationship with them? No, they're probably just gonna pump and dump, hit it and quit it. They're probably just gonna smash, right? They're probably just gonna want to have sex, right? Can she the best dudes? Can she lock down a relationship with them? No, but she can always get the dick from them. That's biology. That's biology. So she can swipe right all day and get matches all day. So 70% of the users on dating apps are dudes. So that was complete falsehood. She wasn't getting any matches. Bullshit. She wasn't getting any matches. And so then they said, okay, well, so now she's using her She-Hulk pictures, and then she starts getting matches. because what that comes off to me is obviously it's females writing the show. The female writers of this show are completely disconnected from reality and how reality is, right? And they're projecting what they would do onto men. So they acknowledge you guys know what projection is. I don't have to explain it to you. But anyways, they're projecting their own stuff onto what men would do. So as soon as she switches to her She-Hulk photos, all of a sudden she starts getting tons of matches. As if men give a shit about your socio-economic status. As if men give a shit with women when it comes to celebrity. Right? Men don't care about a female celebrity's celebrity status. Men only care that that female celebrity is hot. Right? It's not the status and the fame that we give a shit about. It's just that she's hot. And there's hot posters of her. Or hot, she shows skin in movies. Or she's topless in movies. Like the Olivia Wildes, the Olivia Munns, the Margot Robbies. The Mila Kunises, the fucking Natalie Portmans. We've seen, at some point or another, we've seen them scantily clad in a movie, and that's why we want to bang them. Right? Because they're hot. It has nothing to do with their fame. So anyways, they projected that onto the men, that because She-Hulk is famous, then they start wanting to match with her. As if She-Hulk is... Well, to be fair, She-Hulk has got that long hair, which is another thing that doesn't make sense. But anyways, it just... Hopefully I made my point enough. This video is going to be really long and I've ranted. But anyways, also, why does She-Hulk look barely anything like Jennifer Walters? Like, the only thing that looks kind of similar to Jennifer Walters is like the inside of her face, the mouth, and like some of the inside of the face. Everything else, she doesn't even. At least Hulk looks like Mark Ruffalo. Hulk's face looks like Mark Ruffalo. They barely like, all of her imperfections are gone in her face. Her face is way smoothed out as She-Hulk, and her hair doubles in length. Her hair doubles in length and is straight instead of curly. It makes no sense. Anyways, we gotta finish this video.
If we actually saw the negative impact of what she describes. But no, the writers were so desperate to have their first girl boss moment right off the bat that they had to make this a quick and easy victory for Jennifer. The scene feels more like them projecting their own personal gripes, frustrations and hang-ups, followed by the fantasy resolution they wish they could have had themselves, rather than a logical component of a bigger narrative. It was more important for them to score a quick, ego-stroking win rather than take the smarter option.
Listen. Just want to make this point. If you didn't understand what I said, this is the long and short and simple of it, especially on dating apps, is women can catch dick from the best of the best status, looks and status guys, whether it's looks or money or both. Women can catch the dick from all those top socioeconomic guys. The door is open for the dick, right? It's the relationship that they can't lock down. Whereas guys, okay, I'll make it even simpler. For you. If you don't understand. Hopefully most of you do. But there are some knuckleheads that are so freaking blue pill programmed by the liberal media and all the bullshit. It's really simple. Men are gatekeepers for relationships, and women are gatekeepers for sex. Really simple. You get it? Okay.
find payoffs later, and unfortunately that's a common thread in this show. Like in the next scene where Jennifer and Bruce are involved in a car wreck. Bruce gets knocked unconscious in the crash and Jen's forced to drag him from the wreckage, and in the process some of his blood mixes with hers and she turns into the Hulk.
Oh yeah, that was really silly.
Now imagine for a moment how much more...
Don't get me started on that. Oh my... Dude. That doesn't make sense to me, because never once have we ever seen Bruce bleed before in any of the Hulk movie. I cannot recall us ever seeing Bruce bleed before. He even ate a bullet and didn't bleed and just turned into Hulk. So we've never seen him bleed before, and if it was that easy to contaminate someone with his blood, I'm sure he would have already known about it. And, I mean, apparently he did know about it, but it's like, we've never seen him have this bleedy contamination, bleedy problem before. And he's been in tons of battles, and, you know, it's just silly to me. It's like all of a sudden this device makes him bleed easier. Oh, this device I put on to help me change into my human form made me bleed easier. Okay.
Bruce had been the one to survive the crash, and Jennifer had been badly injured instead. So bad, in fact, that conventional medical science could do nothing more for her. Faced with a difficult choice, Bruce reluctantly gives her a blood transfusion, saving her life at the cost of her humanity by turning her into a Hulk. That would open up a lot of pretty interesting possibilities for their relationship. On the one hand, Jennifer would be rightly pissed that Bruce performed an invasive and life-altering medical procedure without her consent, and now she has to live with the long-term consequences. And on the other, you could have Bruce racked with guilt that he basically ruined her life, but also defiant because he ultimately took the difficult decision needed to keep her alive. That could result in a lot of conflict, but also a lot of very emotionally satisfying scenes between the two of them. But all of that would require time and effort to develop, probably over multiple episodes, and it's all just so much work. It would also mean putting their protagonist at a bit of a disadvantage, albeit temporarily, and needing the help of a man to get her out of trouble, and that's not allowed in modern Marvel writing because it goes against the rules. They couldn't have their creation lying helpless and injured on the ground. They were repulsed at the idea of a strong man pulling her from the wreckage and making important decisions about her future without her inputs. And so, just like the opening scene that could have been the setup for a satisfying emotional payoff later, they instead took the short-sighted option and went for a quick, easy and cheap win. Of course Jen doesn't need Bruce's help. Of course she wrenches a buckled car door open, despite that being almost impossible for any human without heavy cutting equipment. Of course she carries his unconscious body away from the wreck, despite him weighing 50 or 60 pounds more than her. She's awesome, she's a boss, she's killing it like she always does. And it's only because of this weak, dumb man's injured body that she happens to get some of his blood on her. What a selfish arsehole. Anyway, so she hulks out and wakes up sometime later in the bushes outside a bar in the middle of nowhere, and after staggering into the bathroom, she immediately encounters a group of comically helpful women who slather her in makeup, force her into some cheap clothes and send her on her way, only for her to run into a group of evil men outside. I mean, I assume they're evil because that's clearly what the writer wants us to think. The problem is that they don't really do anything all that bad. I mean, they show some mild interest in Jen, who's clearly not interested, and when they persist, she hulks up and almost kills all of them. And it's only the intervention of Bruce at the last second that saves their lives. And that's it. The big payoff here is Jen scaring the crap out of a bunch of dude bros who normally would have been scary and intimidating to her, and whose only real crime was being a bit too forwards. Now, take a moment to think about this for what it really is, a logical building block of a larger story. Think about how much more impactful this might have been if it had happened earlier in the episode, before Jen's transformation. Imagine she was making her way home after a shitty day at the office, like, for example, getting passed over for a big court case, only to run into some drunken assholes who start harassing her. At first she tries to ignore them, then she politely declines their advances, but still they keep it up, getting more surly and abusive as the scene continues. We get to see and feel her growing panic and anger, and how hard she has to struggle to keep from losing her temper. And by the time they finally get bored and leave her alone, she's exhausted and upset from the ordeal. Think how much more we would empathise with her then, and how much more impact that big emotional payoff at the end of the episode would have had. But nah, the writers didn't want to do that. They wanted to do an easy, breezy comedy where problems get resolved almost as quickly as they appear, and the main character...
Listen, I get what they were trying to do with that scene, okay? I get what they were trying to do with that scene. They just did it really badly. They did it really poorly. Like, they try to make it like a feminist woman only thing, right? Everybody, and I understand women have to be like extra careful at night in a parking lot that may or may not have cameras and getting approached by dudes. I get that. But everybody, dudes included, have to deal with unwanted social interactions. Everybody, male or female. When I go on a walk, right? When I go on a walk with my dog, I oftentimes go out trying to find the most secluded trail or bushes where I don't, or path in the woods where I don't have to encounter a single person, so I don't have to say hello, so I don't have to make stupid small talk or anything, or come off as unfriendly or whatever, right? Everyone has to do it. Everyone has to do it. But the problem is they're trying to make it like, oh, those dudes were about to assault her. Oh, those dudes were about to assault her. Like, it's so common. No, it's not. It's not common. They weren't gonna assault her. They weren't, like, in real life, they would have just been like, okay, bye. Like, and she would have walked away, right? It's like, I don't know, it's just goofy. It's just goofy. And they had a similar scene in the first season of The Boys where, like, Starlight just randomly happens upon dudes R-wording a chick. It's like, it doesn't happen that often. It's crazy. It's crazy. You go to a bar anytime, and girls go to bars knowing full well they're going to get approached and hit on, right? So, in real life, what would have happened was nothing. She would have just said nothing. She would have probably not even turned around or just been aware and then just kept walking, and they would have just been like, they would have just shrugged their shoulders and when they realized they weren't going to get a response. But anyways, also the premise of that scene is completely nonsense. The way those guys are behaving is complete. No dudes behave that way. No dudes are like, you know, they wouldn't even, it's just cringe. It's just cringe what they were trying to, they were purposely trying to create something there. And that's what they do. They create this propaganda where these, you know, it's like, in real life, those dudes wouldn't even stepped foot off the patio. They would have said hey as she walked out. They wouldn't have stepped foot off the patio. They wouldn't have followed her. They would have just said hey. They would have got ignored. She would have kept walking, and that would have been that. But in the woman's mind, they got them staggering and following, and it's like, come on, man. It's like, come on. And even if the dudes did do that, there's always another dude, even in the very group that's doing it, that says, hey man, come on. What are you doing? Right? What are you doing? Like, maybe one of them's super drunk, so they are following behind, shouting, right? And then their friend grabs them on the shoulder and it's like, hey man, come on. It's like, it's really annoying. It's really annoying that I don't know. Anyways, jump back into it.
the next. They wanted the female power fantasy of standing up to male bullies, of being the bigger, stronger one for a change, of putting men in their place. They wanted to feel vindicated, validated and strong in a way they never had before. Yet again, they sacrificed long-term story payoffs for the quick dopamine hit of an easy win. The last point I wanted to touch on was the training sequence between Jen and Bruce. Having prevented her from killing a bunch of innocent civilians, Bruce takes her away to his beachside retreat so he can train her to control her Hulk powers. Which makes sense considering an out-of-control Hulk can basically decimate entire cities. Now, you might think this sequence would open up some interesting possibilities for their relationship. After all, Bruce has gone through a lot of shit because of the Hulk. This is a man with 15 years of tragedy, loss, disaster and destruction behind him. A lot of painful lessons that he can share with his cousin to help her avoid the same mistakes.
And she's not interested in
mentor,
any of
and
it.
She's the naive pupil.
And that's so resemblance to like for any of you guys out there that have little sisters or dads that have daughters or whatever. It's like, how many times, like, okay, I remember there was a scene, divert from that real second, but I remember there was a scene in the show Louie where Louie is riding in the car with his daughters, right? It's a long drive, and they start chanting to him, "I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored." And he's like, you know, girls, the only people who get bored are boring people. And they're like, hey. Anyways, my point is, whenever you try and share like a life event or like a journey of overcoming and struggle to like a little sister or a daughter from a male perspective, it's just whoosh right over the head. Not only they don't want to hear it, but they're like, I think honestly biologically they're incapable of hearing it. And that ties into the show. He had a whole journal, like, this is my 15-year journey of like all the you know, troubles and struggles, and you know, he's like, he was excited to share it. He was excited to share it with someone who finally has the same problem as him. And not only is she automatically perfect right out of the gate, but has no interest in hearing about any of it. Like, what a slap in the face. Anyways.
Instead, what we get are some quippy jokes that mock the Hulk and everything Bruce has gone through, and a montage whose own...
And girls and male feminists, you weasels, any of you weasels watching, girls and you weasel male feminists, if you're getting offended right now, the perfect analogy for what I'm talking about is, you know, if your dad is in your life, hopefully your dad is in your life, but when your dad is trying to tell you stories that you really don't, your dad, I'm sure, has a bunch of stories that he likes to tell, right? And in the moment when he's trying to tell them, you don't want to hear it. But then there's times, especially maybe when you haven't seen them in a while, or you're missing them, or maybe they're passed away, when you're missing hearing his stories, right? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Anyways.
Apparently better than Bruce in every way. She immediately excels in almost every activity. Is Bruce his equal, or even his better in every competitive event? And on the one occasion where he demonstrates superior strength, she openly mocks him for being goaded into showing off. It's just that toxic male pride talking, I guess.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, I gotta keep pausing this. This is fucking driving me crazy. Anyways, the two scenes that he just showed right there, she throws a rock farther than him out of the gate without even trying. and so he has to throw a rock into the atmosphere. Okay? They purposely put that scene in there to show how insecure males are about their masculinity, right? And how superior girls are. It's like anyways, it sucks even talking about it, because one side of the fence is going to see it one way, the other side of the fence is going to see it one way, and it's like, how does anyone ever resolve it? It's straight up propaganda. It's straight up propaganda, okay? Girls cannot throw harder. They're both Hulks. They're both Hulks. So let's just treat them as average male, average female, right? Average Hulk male, average Hulk female. Women cannot throw harder and farther than men without even trying. It's like, it shouldn't even need to be said. So when they do that in the show, they're making it cringe, and they're playing to a progressive left audience and purposely creating divisiveness. It's purposely creating divisiveness. And then having him shove her off the cliff. It's like, I don't know what they were trying to do there, but it's like, it kind of reminded me of how like Hulk in Avengers 1 shoved Thor at the near the end of the battle, how he shoved Thor. The problem with that is that was Hulk. This is not Hulk. This is smart Bruce Banner Hulk. So I don't know, man. This show has so many problems.
Literally mocking him for being stronger than her when she was literally celebrating for being stronger than him seconds earlier. I guess it's okay when women do it. Actually, now that I think about it, that should pretty much be the slogan for the MCU at this point. But more importantly, it
It's
again
okay
blows
when
another
women
perfect
do it.
chance to have some kind of meaningful character development between the two of them. Bruce has got nothing to teach her, no lessons to impart, and no wisdom to pass on. It's all just as shallow, insincere, and meaningless as, well, basically every single moment of Thor Love and Thunder. The only purpose of this segment is to bring us to that all-important emotional payoff. Now, just imagine how much more impactful that whole scene would have been if the writers had done everything I've suggested in this video. But they didn't. Just like the toxic male lawyer, just like the car crash, just like the drunk guys outside the bar, this episode is all about having Jen breeze through every situation with absolutely no difficulty. It's all about the easy wins, the cheap dopamine hit, the constant search for validation and ego stroking. What you ultimately end up with is less of a story with properly constructed setup leading to satisfying payoffs, and more of a kind of group therapy session. A chance for the writers to project all of their hang-ups
Those are
and
the
gripes
writers.
and petty first
Those
world
are the
frustrations
writers. That
onto a bunch of
explains
on-screen
everything.
strawmen that can be quickly and easily
That
knocked
explains
down by
everything.
their idealized self-insert persona. It's not about telling an interesting story or faithfully adapting the source material, it's about them. It's about making them feel better, stroking their egos, validating their life choices. It's weak, cheap, selfish writing from people who either can't or don't want to produce anything better. But hey, if you've got any interest at all in the business of storytelling, then She-Hulk is basically a perfect example of what not to do. And that being the case, maybe it does have a useful purpose after all. Now, since I've spent so long talking about writing, that serves as an awkward little segue into this neat bit of self-promotion. See, it turns out that my new novel, Dark Harvest, is now available to buy from all good bookshops.
he's a writer,
and a
so
few shit
he
ones.
so he
I believe
probably
in
knows about
practicing what you
writing.
preach, and instead of sitting on my arse bitching about stuff that other people have made, I like to throw my own hat in the ring and see what I'm capable of making. And if by chance you're interested in picking up a copy, it really helps support my work, so I'll leave a link in the description. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Yeah, it's like, it's he made an offhand comment about Thor: Love and Thunder, and it kind of made me realize something. It's like they don't have the budget. I'm gonna be honest. I enjoyed Thor: Love and Thunder. Why did I enjoy Thor: Love and Thunder? Because I'm a sucker for Thor. I really like Thor, and it had a lot of nice special effects, right? So, but outside of liking Thor and the nice special effects, it was a really shallow, empty movie. And these Disney Plus MCU shows, they don't have the budget for the kind of fight scenes that go into like a Thor: Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home. So I don't know, maybe that's why the writing being so terrible is getting noticed. Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, my point is, those are the writers sitting there in the panel. And so you can clearly see that, I mean, this is a classic case of they don't give a shit about the source material. I guarantee you, before the MCU, they didn't like superheroes. You know, it's a really cringy show. And even people that wanted to give it an honest shot, I've noticed even they agree that it's cringy. Like there's this one scene where, oh, back to the Tinder thing, she finally gets a date, and then she carries him off to the bedroom. She carries him off to the bedroom. And he's a muscular guy. But she carries him off to. It's just so weird. It's straight up propaganda. It's like straight up propaganda. It's like, I don't know, man. But anyways, this video has been super long and gone on for far too long. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Holy crap. So anyways, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I appreciate it. And if you haven't been to my Twitch is right there. Go follow it. I appreciate that. And if you want to watch another video, oh, wrong one. If you want to watch another video is going to pop up right here. I mean, if you've been listening to me ramble this long, I'm sure you wouldn't mind listening to me ramble some more. So go down that rabbit hole right there. Anyways, peace out, guys.